2 days before Thanksgiving, and I know that some folks are getting ready to get prepared. Some people may be going to their family or having family come to them in order to celebrate Thanksgiving. Some people may be doing it virtually. Some people may actually be doing it in person. I know that I'm planning to go up and visit my mom on Thanksgiving in 2 days and check out how she's doing in Rocky Mount, along with my brother and my two nephews. Who knows what other family members may show up as well, but I'll tell you all about that at a later time. But there's a lot of things going on in the world, in news and other things. And there was actually some sad news involving an iconic hero and all of that. But there was a civil rights leader, none other than Malcolm X. And a lot of people have different views of Malcolm X and his life. But, there's always sad news when people that are connected to those are then later found to be dead as well. And of course, some people may have different conspiracy theories and different other things about what is going on in the world. But the daughter of slain Black civil rights activist Malcolm X, Malika Shabazz, died on Monday, according to the New York Times. According to the New York Police Department, and they told that to CNN. Shabazz, 56, was found unconscious by her daughter at her home in Brooklyn, according to the New York Police Department. Police did say that the death appears to be due to natural causes at this time. And I'm sure folks will be trying to figure out more about this and everything along those lines. Bernice King, a daughter of the late Martin Luther King Jr., offered her condolences. I'm deeply saddened by the death of Malika Shabazz. My heart goes out to her family, the descendants of Dr. Betty Shabazz and Malcolm X. Dr. Shabazz was pregnant with Malika and her twin sister, Malik, when brother Malcolm was assassinated. Be at peace, Malika, King said on Twitter. Shabazz is the youngest of Malcolm X's 6 daughters, and CNN has reached out to the medical examiner's office and to the Shabazz family to learn more. Malcolm X was one of the most powerful voices in the fight against racism before his shooting death in New York way back in 1965. I was all of about maybe 2 or 3 years old when that incident happened and all of that. But he definitely remains a symbol of inspiration for Black men and others moved by his transformation from a street hustler to a historic figure. The late African-American actor Ozzie Davis eulogized as our own Black shining prince. And the assassination came after a public feud between Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam's founder, Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm X had accused Muhammad of infidelity and left the nation back in March of 1964. And last Thursday, 2 men convicted of the assassination were exonerated during a court hearing. So this is all stuff that was revolving around that historical time and that historical moment and all of that. So I do know that when I was in Clubhouse, a lot of people were bringing up how a lot of these events could even be tied in together and things along those lines and everything in that regards and everything that is happening in that case. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And there was another case where people were recently exonerated as well. So yes, apparently 4 African men were exonerated more than 70 years after being wrongly accused of assaulting and raping a white teen girl. So the LA County lawyers have also said that Vanessa Bryant's lawsuit over Kobe Bryant crash photos should be dismissed and things along that line. And of course, we do have more about the Wisconsin situation as well with that police, not police, but with the person driving their car through a parade and all of that. But the family of the Groveland Four. That's right, the family of the Groveland Four. That's the name of the people that got exonerated. They got some closure on Monday after Florida officials officially cleared 4 young African-American men wrongly accused of the crime way back in 1949. I can only imagine what it would be like to go through life through kind of this whole feeling that you have been convicted of something that you know that you did not do and things of that nature. And I'm sure that some of these people may not even be alive at this point right now. But Circuit Court Judge Heidi Davis in Lake County, Florida, granted the state's motion to posthumously dismiss the indictments of Ernest Thomas and Samuel Shepard and vacated the convictions of Charles Greenlee and Walter Irvin in the case known as the Groveland Four. Um, I would not hate, but I will love and embrace all of those who did not know at the time that my father was a caring and loving and compassionate person that did not rape anybody. I stand here today to say thank you, and that's what an emotional Carol Greenlee, the daughter of Charles Greenlee, said in front of cameras at a press conference Monday morning following the court hearing. In 1949, Greenlee, Irvin, Shepard, and Thomas were accused of sexually assaulting Norma Paget in Groveland, Florida, about 30 miles west of Orlando. The group came to be called the Groveland Four. The case was considered one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in Jim Crow era Florida. There were doubts about Paget's testimony from the onset, but in the era of Jim Crow, a jury convicted the man without evidence of a crime. For 72 years, the families have been living with this and traveling with this journey, waiting for today, according to Bill Gladson, the state attorney. And he said that after Monday's hearing, Gladson, a Republican, moved last month to have the man officially exonerated. None of the men are still alive. Gladson said the state sought justice once they realized there was new evidence. Once we found that evidence and it was revealed what it revealed, that resulted in the motion that you saw today, he said. State Senator Randolph Brassey, a Democrat, said that while the exoneration does not fix the racial injustice that is so pervasive in our criminal justice system, the motion gave the family some closure and offered some hope. I believe reckoning with the past and correcting gross injustice does put us on a path to creating a fairer, more equal court system, he said. In 2019, Governor Ron DeSantis issued a full posthumous pardons to the man. For 70 years, these four men have had their history wrongly written for a crime they did not commit. As I have said before, while that is a long time to wait, it is never too late to do the right thing, DeSantis said in a statement at that time. I believe the rule of the law is society's sacred bound. When it is trampled, we all suffered. For the Groveland Four, the truth was buried, the perpetrators celebrated, but justice is cried out from the day until this. The Florida House issued a posthumous apology to the Groveland Four in April of 2017. As a state, we're truly sorry, Representative Chris Sproles said to the man's family after lawmakers unanimously voted to exonerate them. The memories can't be erased, the pain they've endured can't be fixed, but today we have an opportunity to provide closure to these families in the form of an apology, according to Reverend Bobby DuBois, who sponsored the bill that called for their pardon. So definitely some very sad news that went on in that particular case. As a matter of fact, Gilbert King wrote about the case in his Pulitzer Prize winning book, Devil in the Grove, Thurgood Marshall, The Groveland Boys, and the Dawn of a New America. We need courage, Aaron Newsom, Ernest Thomas' nephew, said, fighting off tears in front of cameras today following the court hearing. A lot of families did not get this opportunity. Maybe this will. Maybe this is the start of something good. I hope so. This country needs to come together. So a lot of talk about unity and coming together, even in this particular case as well. So this will be very interesting. And speaking of very interesting things, a lot of people are still following the case of Ahmaud Arbery and everything in that case as well. As a matter of fact, there are final rebuttals in the trial of the three men, and we will be waiting to see what happens and whether there is actually anything happening in that regards as to whether there will be a innocent call or whether there will be a guilty verdict as well. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But those arguments are taking place even as we're speaking and all of that. And of course, the prosecution will deliver a rebuttal to the defense closing in the trial of the three men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. And jury deliberations will begin right after those closing arguments. So this is another case, like the Rittenhouse case, that a lot of people around the world will be watching to see what happens in that regards and what goes on in that particular case and all of that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in that regards. And I see that I've got Nick, our main man here in the house, and everything along those lines. So we've had different cases. I was actually just talking about one that was there in Florida. I was going to bring some news up about Sudan as well. But we do have our friend Sherry Burrell, who's a PR person watching from Beverly Hills, and she was sharing her greetings to us and everything. But I don't know, you spent some time in Florida. Were you familiar with that case of the Groveland Four? And I'm just glad to see people get exonerated for a crime that they did not commit. But we do know that sometimes the wheels of justice can turn slowly, and apparently in this case, all of the men have passed on, but at least their families get some peace of mind and things of that nature now that they have been exonerated for this crime that apparently they did not commit, and things of that nature. I've also heard of cases where people have, spent time in prison for crimes that they did not commit, and even after they got out, had lost maybe 50, 60, or many more years of their lives, and they were trying to even get reacclimated, but they might have missed the birth of children, grandchildren, things of that nature because of having been locked up, and then later on the DNA evidence or other evidence would find them innocent. So we're glad that this kind of evidence and this kind of technology exists now, but we do know that sometimes it can take a while to actually get the results that are truthful and all of that. But one, you spent some time in Florida. Had you ever heard of the Groveland Four? And
Nope.
did you have any thoughts about it?
Nope, never even heard of the case, Mark. So don't know anything about it. But there are instances where the judicial system breaks down and doesn't work, or it's frankly inconsistent.
Right.
And here's the big inconsistency that I've seen, and I'm not sure how you rectify it. There was this gentleman somewhere, I guess in California or wherever. Anyway, he came from a very wealthy family, and he was convicted of raping young kids. Of course, every time you change the facts, the law changes on how they deal with the facts. So the fact was he was also young. He was, I think, 19 years old or 20 when he raped 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. Okay. And with that, he was given 8 years probation. All right. Now we're going to switch the facts just a little bit. A person who was a teacher, age 35, didn't rape but had sex with a consensual sex with a 16-year-old, and he's in prison for 10 years. All right. Now, what's the problem? Okay, and this actually is a problem. One was consensual, one wasn't. One's in jail for 10 years. The other one is on probation.
Right.
All right. It's if you look at it holistically, it's probably a very inconsistent application of the legal process. And this is where I think computer programs in the future are going to help. There's Sasha. Computer programs in the future are going to be able to help level it out. But here's another problem that we have that people don't understand. This one reason I agree with some of our commentators. Law needs to be taught when you're in like elementary school or middle school. Okay. One problem that we have in our legal system in the United States, you can do something in one state and go to jail for it. You can do the same act in another state and it's okay. No jail time. It's free to do it. And we'll just give you a very simple example. In North Carolina, because I looked at it on my board, somebody said, hey, let's do a poker game and do Texas Hold'em like it's a tournament, which I thought, no problem. Is problem because in North Carolina, any form of gambling, is a misdemeanor crime and all this other trash. In other words, all of a sudden I go, wow, I can't even do we have to be real careful. In other words, no money can exchange hands or.
Nick, isn't poker a game of skill?
Well, no, chess is a game of skill. Okay.
No poker.
Not poker. But the thing is, it's weird, Sasha, that chess has been considered a game of skill. So because of and no chance. So the thing is, if you pay an entry fee to go to a chess tournament and money's exchanged, it's okay. If you play chess for money, it's okay. But if you play poker because it's a game of chance, it's not okay. Jail time. Now here's the problem. You go to Las Vegas or you go to Nevada, it's not a problem. So there's some states no problem. Other states is a problem. And this is what happens in our judicial system in the United States. From state to state, you could do something in state A, perfectly legal. State B, perfect jail time. All right. This fundamental concept is not even discussed in our elementary and middle school kids. And they really do need to know fundamentals of our U.S. legal system. But there's no course in it, and it's just appalling because people don't know how these lines are drawn or where they're drawn, and there's a big vacuum in discussing the fundamentals of the legal system, Mark. And that's hey, it is what it is. So we have a lot of people that think they know what how the legal system works, and they don't.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of people don't know how the legal system works, and I agree it needs to be taught at a much earlier age and everything. Yeah. And the other thing that happens is that a lot of times when a tragedy, and it does seem like it was a natural tragedy, happens, that's when we start paying attention to historical figures once again. And I mentioned in the opening dialogue then everything that one of Malcolm X's 6 daughters was found dead there in New York. It seems to be of natural causes, but I'm sure that that's getting a lot of people to run to their history books and other things to learn a little bit more about Malcolm X, because it's not always taught as much, even though he's one of the major civil rights leaders along with Martin Luther King and others. But I'm sure that even in our newsrooms around the country, they're probably rushing to learn more about Malcolm X because of the fact that his daughter has passed away.
Yeah, well, if you just look at African American history in general, first course I took was when I was in college, because you can't take it in elementary or middle school, especially in the South where I grew up. It just didn't even exist. Okay, so you have a whole rich history of what happened in the subcontinent, which is basically totally ignored. But if you want to go on further, Indian history, in other words, what goes on in India and China, is also ignored. In the United States of America, we study one thing: European history. That's it. It's European and American history. And China, they throw out a couple dynasties, and then that's it for Chinese history. You throw out a couple, what do they call it, dynasties maybe in India, or you don't even study it, and then that's it. In Africa, I believe, and I'd love to see a survey, we should do this as a poll someday, Mark. I believe most Americans couldn't point out where Zaire even is on a map, okay, or Gambia, or any of these countries, Lesotho. I mean, there was one the other day that was a kingdom, and I didn't even know it existed. It was just north of Swaziland. I believe that most Americans could not point it out, but then at the same time, most of them couldn't point out where Des Moines, Iowa is. So, it's like, it's like boing.
Yeah, basic geography is a major problem in the United States and across the world and everything. You mentioned the poker game really quickly, and whether it was a game of skill or chance and things of that nature. And definitely, I think it is more chance than skill, but there are some skill elements as well. I do remember watching this late night show, and I'm glad you made that clarification about why they were able to get away with it, because I believe that it was done from Las Vegas, but it was literally a show that was called like Poker Up All Night or something like that, because it was a very early morning show, but it was literally the poker masters playing against each other. And of course they had some woman that was the host and everything along those lines. But it was definitely an interesting show. I've learned a lot about poker from watching that show.
I actually like Texas Hold'em. When I fly overseas international, I play Texas Hold'em on Delta against computers. Now computers, I beat them all the time. But why? Is because they play, you can actually, their pattern recognition, like what Sasha would say, they have the same pattern all the time, and they don't change, and you can easily know when to post bets and beat them. So it's almost like beating weak chess computers. You put a person in, it changes the dynamics, because their patterns can be inconsistent and very difficult, if not impossible, to recognize, because they're irrational. Okay, but I found out my favorite move in poker: fold. I mean, that's what I think people just don't do.
Don't fold
I look at they don't fold enough. I got to look at these cards. It's gone.
Gotta fold sometimes.
I can play that.
What was that country song? Know when to fold them. Know when
to
hold
them.
Know
when to hold them. And most of the time, I think people overestimate their hands, and they go, "Oh, I've got a good hand." No, you don't. Your hand sucks.
Hand is not that great.
Your hand is not that great.
Hey, Sasha, everybody knows you here on the network for your investment advice, and it is always the great advice that you're giving and everything, but also for being a chess master. I have always wanted to know, and I guess I'll ask now since we're on this particular news show, is there a game of interest other than chess? I know that you love chess. It is your number one game. You are a superstar in that field, but is there any other game, whether it's poker or whether it's something else, that draws your interest? Maybe not as much as chess, because I don't think anything's going to draw your interest as much as chess, but is there another game that you love to play in addition to chess?
Selling
There are a
options.
couple of games, yeah. For example, one is backgammon.
Really?
Yeah, backgammon. Many years ago, I tied for third in. It was in Las Vegas. I think it was U.S. Open backgammon tournament. So I tied for third, and actually, I could have made it to a final. I was leading 15 points match, 14-11, and so I thought that basically it's done deal. So there was a break, and my opponent offered me that he would resign, but he wanted me to pay him compensation. I think he asked $2,500, and tell us the truth, I was not prepared to give him even $500. So when he said $2,500, I thanked him and said that, you know what, let's try to see what's happened. What's happened is that I lost next game. It was 14-12, and he gammoned me in next game. From the beginning, I got in tough position. I couldn't get out of it, and I lost the match.
Wow.
Now, the same evening, two of us and a group of other participants, we were discussing was $2,500 a fair deal, because the first prize was $20,000, second prize $12,500, and the third and fourth were worth $6,500. Okay, so essentially he asked me, so from $6,500, you see, they calculated, and I had to agree with them, the $2,500 was actually a fair proposal, because not only I would have a shot at, I would guarantee second prize, but I would have a shot at first prize as well. I didn't think about the first prize. I thought about, okay, I'll get the second prize, 12.5, 2.5 I'll give to him, so I'll net 10,000. And I didn't think about possibilities that I will have a chance to. By the way, he won the tournament. After he beat me, the final, which was in a huge room, it was televised with commentaries and so on. He won. It was 21 points match. He won 21-3.
Did you ever run into Drew Giovannis in Las Vegas? He's played in that quite often.
What's his name?
Giovannis.
No.
I don't know if you run into him. You know, I did know quite a few of the players.
No, but I was not regular at
right.
Las Vegas. And
they
love
have
the game, but I just don't play to.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, they have an active, but it's almost like chess. Chess is kind of like the worst game to play for money, because the chess players all know who's going to win and lose, so they don't really. It's not a gamble, like they said. Then, so the chess players morphed into backgammon, which they have an element of luck, but frankly, it's a lot of skill. And so they end up doing that. But it only drew a certain amount of people. Then, when the World Series of Poker came aboard, a lot of the chess players morphed over to there because they can make a living playing poker, which they can't do chess, and they can barely do backgammon. And poker becomes the key game for, oddly enough, the key game for chess players, until they get really good at the market, and then they become quants in the stock market. So some of the top ones are actually, they morph over to money management. So it's kind of like this. It attracts that same thing, like what Sasha says. It's pattern recognition, when it comes to doing that type of stuff in Las Vegas. And I imagine that most people on Thanksgiving aren't going to run to the tables in Las Vegas, but who knows? I think that's in 2 days from now. Right now, it's like a lot of people in their cars.
It is in 2 days, and actually, that's one of the things that we've done in some of our family gatherings. We used to play certain games afterwards. One of them was spinners, which is kind of like a variation of dominoes, and then sometimes I remember Scrabble games, and there might have been other games that come out at some point or another at the family gatherings, including Thanksgiving. But of course, there's also a lot of watching of the football games and a lot of preparation of the food, and of course, eating way too much that you don't really need in your stomach at that time, because definitely we love getting good meals during Thanksgiving, and sometimes it's whole plates that are out there, and that's why there's a lot of leftover on Thanksgiving that I'm a big fan of, and all of that. But that being said, you brought up, Nick, about other countries and are not knowing about them. I was getting ready to bring up another country around the world, that being Sudan. Apparently, their newly reinstated prime minister told CNN on Tuesday that he compromised in a deal with the country's military in order to avoid bloodshed and a civil war. So, Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and other ministers were detained during a military coup last month that saw the country's power-sharing government dissolved, and more than 40 people have since been killed in protests. But the country's military chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, reinstated Hamdok on Sunday as part of a deal between the military and civilian leadership in the country. And in an interview with CNN on Tuesday, Hamdok said he regretted the bloodshed that had followed the October 25th coup. He said the agreement had been signed in order to avoid further killings. And I love this quote from him. He said, "This is not a personal matter for me." He said, "There's a motto that says you will die for country. I took the right decision." So apparently he was feeling that he made the right decision by doing something that would protect the rest of the country as well. So I don't know if any of y'all have been following what's going on in Sudan. I knew a little bit about it, but not nearly enough. And I think that that's what happens in the world in general. So it's glad to us to be able to bring some attention to another part of the world. And maybe we can find some folks from the Sudanese population that can come in and talk about how they are being impacted in their country by this whole situation. And that comes back to what you were saying, Nick, about a lot of things going on in the world that we don't know. And that's why we're glad to have World Edition, where we can shed some light on some of these things. Sasha, had you heard anything about some of these things going on in Sudan? I know that when I've heard about Sudan, it's been because of some certain athletes that were from that country, as well as certain, I want to say there was a popular model that was from that country as well. And then, of course, there's been talk around Sudan and other places around starvation, but I had not been paying nearly enough attention to the political situation. But I was wondering, you're a world student, if you had even followed this situation, or Nick, and had even known anything about it.
Let's see. First of all, everything that you have to know and find out about Sudan, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll just find in a matter of 2.5 minutes everything what there is to know about Sudan. Absolutely everything. Now, if I would have a choice to spend my time to learn about Sudan, or for example, listen to trial in Atlanta, which is going on right now, and which I saw the statements from prosecution, what do you think I would spend my time to see the trial in real time, exactly what's happening there? Or I would learn about Sudan, what is there, and the history of Sudan, and what's happened there 2,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 5 months ago, or 5 weeks ago. I'm not so sure that I would devote any time to spend on that.
What do you think,
Interesting.
Nick?
Well, see, the thing is, what I find interesting is internationally, this is something that I wasn't aware of till recently. Facebook news, a lot of places around the world, 90% of their news they get is through Facebook. Okay, like no kidding. So, in other words, like if a person's in a foreign country like Sudan, they can't get really regular programming, so they get or news. So what they do is they go to Facebook to get news. The problem is some of the news is real, some of the news is not real. Like they had something on Facebook or something, John Cena, a famous wrestler, died. And I was going like, wow, this guy's an actor, famous wrestler. He died? And I saw it was even on Google. So I checked it and it's complete hoax. In other words, people just make things up that are complete lies, Mark, and they stick it out on Facebook. And in terms of following Sudan, all I know about it is that they've had a lot of problems, a civil war. They created South Sudan, North Sudan. It's also a landlocked country. It can't be a rich country because I don't know if it has any mineral rights or oil rights. So it's a problem country. So it's not on my, my tourist list. Right. There are certain countries I go, well, we're not going to go there because it's not safe. And same with El Salvador. You know, it's infested by druggies, and India, but not because it's not safe, but it's polluted. You know, I can't go into a city which is, you know, polluted, and I can't go to China either because it's polluted. I mean, the thing is, so I have things that are on my, hey, these are great places to go visit and hang out, and then these are places that I don't want to visit and don't hang out. It's like going to Syria. Do you really want to go to Syria today? How's Damascus in the wintertime? Probably pretty bad, just like it is during the summertime. So I don't know. Some of these countries really need to get their act together, and I guess it's very difficult for them to do it. Like Haiti, are you going to go vacation in Haiti this year? No, it's not on the list. So Sudan right now is not on my list. It's like, I'd rather go to Morocco, go to Casablanca, or go to Marrakesh or something. So Morocco's on the list. Sudan's not.
We may have a way to get you to Morocco.
I know that. I saw that. I was going.
You saw the show on that Coco did and everything.
Yeah.
Her friend did actually. Coco is part owner of a club in Morocco, but her friend is actually living there in Morocco.
Yeah. So Morocco's on the list, but Sudan's not.
I was actually in Guinea, Republic of Guinea. The capital is what is its name? I forgot. Not Karachi. Anyway, it was many years ago. I was there on a business trip with a geologist because we were getting some mineral rights over there. So, to tell you the truth, and this is by far not the poorest country in Africa. It's a former French colony. It has some bauxite and it has some other mineral. It has gold, diamonds exploration is doing very well there. The people are very, very poor, and corruption is incredible as usual. And one interesting fact is there is no electricity in the capital.
Wow.
It was incredible. We were in Ministry of Natural Resources, and for example, when we were shown the map, it would not be possible to copy it because there was no electricity, so there was no printers, so there was and I'm talking about Ministry of Natural Resources at the time. It was mid-90s. Maybe now they have it, but I doubt it. And they said that they have a pure form of socialism because I asked how did you arrive to this conclusion? And they said, well, the Lenin's teaching to us that communism is a socialism plus electrification of all country. So if you have communism and you subtract electrification of all country, you arrive at socialism. So we have a socialism. It's interesting thought about it. But
their capital, I think, is Conakry, at least according to
Conakry,
right.
Absolutely.
And now check out their per capita income.
Okay.
$2,390. So their average person makes a whole year $2,000. And
probably less because you're talking about average.
Yeah, probably less. And so the thing is, some of those countries, they frankly, they just don't have any money. I mean, it's like really poor. Now, Nigeria is a whole different cat. I actually follow the chess clubs in Nigeria. They have an international master who won the Nigerian championship. And of course, we have a show that broadcast from Lagos, Nigeria. So I follow that. And Lagos is now the largest capital it's the largest city in Africa. It overtook Cairo. So, but the population there is 100 million people, Mark. I mean, it's huge and growing. So the thing, and it actually has money, but it has one problem. They have a lot of oil money, but have one problem: too many people. In other words, if they had less people, they'd be rich. But with 100 million people, the money gets spread out, and it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But Nick, I was actually on a friend's show not that long ago. It was actually earlier this morning and everything. And they were talking about something that I think both you and Sasha would be interested in, which is the whole concept of artificial intelligence and whether it's actually going to be working in our favor or not in our favor. Because, I know there's some concern that if we get too much artificial intelligence, what are we going to be? Are we going to be able, and I know this is one of your passion projects, Nick, we're having a hard enough time teaching them about fiscal literacy, the Constitution, the world map, things of that nature. Will they even be prepared to learn AI? And if not, won't that create a greater gap between those that are poor and those that are rich? Because like I said, I'm afraid that we might get more people getting ready to go on those great big joy rides like Mr. Musk and Bezos and others did. And they will know a lot about AI and AI technology. But what about the person that's poor that may be living in, Kentucky?
Well, I think it'll support them. In other words, the thing is, the internet can support you as long as you have access to it. It's just like I didn't know the capital of Guinea, but I did know my cell phone knew the answer.
Right.
So I can go to the cell phone and bang, the information is there instantaneously. You find out what the population is. You find out what the per capita income is. So I think what happens when it comes to computer-based technology, as long as you have access to the computer, you have access to the cell phone, and you know how to research. In other words, quickly go to a website that has it. People are actually going to be better off because they're going to be able to research things quicker. In terms of, I know there's this mania, well, you're going to have robots and AI take over the world. Let me tell you, Mark, it's a lot more complicated than you think. AI has a lot of limits. In other words, they're good at chess, for example. They're good at doing high frequency trading, for example, but when it comes to like overall pattern recognition, in other words, the bigger frame you get, the worse they are. In other words, they can do small tasks better than you can, but huge tasks, humans still beat them. It's just the way it is. They can't get that amount of information. So, like even in my company, when we run computer-based programming for your retirement plans. Once you work with the computers long enough, you learn their limitations when it comes to like planning. They can't see this. Oh, well, if we flip this out and that out, the thing will make something better. They just don't have that capacity yet. And it may be a while. So it's really overrated. In other words, it's good for certain things, but certain things, it's more of a support tool than it is a absolute great, it's going to take over the world type stuff. So it's more of science fiction that it's going to take over the world. In reality, it's a support tool. We played with it. We play with it. It's a toy,
Yeah, you said it's a toy and everything. Yeah. And one of the ladies that was on this call that I was part of and everything was actually talking about an AI nanny, which would literally be able to follow around with kids and help kids learn and basically help them develop and everything of that nature and everything. Sasha, you're a chess master and everything. You don't need an AI assistant because you know how to handle the game on your own. But if you were a youngster learning the game, would you even encourage them to have an AI assistant? Because that's what they were basically talking about. It would be an AI assistant that you would learn the game and help you develop whatever you needed to develop. And they were talking about like literally having schools where it was you and the AI assistant both in the class. So like a permanent companion. Sounded a little far-fetched, but it did sound like it could be happening.
All the young chess players today use computers, Mark. I mean, they train with them. They're like their best buddies. I mean, so when I was growing up in the world of chess, we had to read books, study, play tournaments. Today, they throw the books in the trash can and they turn on their stock. They call it Stockfish, which is a computer-based program that plays better than any human, and they work out with them like you would work out with a football player that's an artificial big football player, which they don't have. You see what I mean? So, or you play basketball with an artificial basketball player. In chess, you definitely work out with computers today. In almost all industries, you use computer-based technology as support. But still, at the end of the day, you're the one who has to go out and play the game. In other words, you can't. So, unless you cheat, which has been a big thing, because you go, my chess computer is really good. Maybe I'll put this thing in my ear like a headphone, and I'll talk to the chess computer and let them play the game. So people do cheat.
Generally speaking, in the last 15, 20 years, chess became a very different game that it used to be. it attracts these days a lot of gamers. They're not students of chess, of its history, of theory, of who are the greatest chess players of all time, learning their games. They don't need that. They have strong computer programs like Nick just described, and they're learning from these programs. So it's before, even 30 years ago, the best computer programs they had to learn from grandmasters. Now it's opposite. Now grandmasters are learning from strongest computer programs. And now this upcoming match between Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi could spell the end of classical chess altogether. And actually, Carlsen already said that right after the match, he will make a big announcement. And then he was asked if he's planning to do the further defense of his title in the future. He said, after the match, listen to my announcements. There will be answers to everything. Especially if it's going to be 14 draws. That definitely will be the end of classical chess.
Yeah, the thing is, what you see is computers can push the limits of knowledge. It's just like I think the game was checkers. It's been worked out by a computer.
Yes,
you can never beat a computer. Okay, they tend to, given enough time, work out the game to its infinite. Now, here's where it's not used enough. It's like in social answers. We'll go to gerrymandering in North Carolina, which is a big problem, Mark.
Yes,
there are computer programs that basically show how districts should be drawn. And what happens is people, because their political interests, go, let's just throw it away. In other words, we'll ignore it. Unfortunately, what's going to happen, I believe, the courts are going to say we're not going to ignore the computer-based programs that draw up congressional lines. So computers can operate as support systems, like in airplanes. When you land your airplane, like I tell people, go out and look at any airfield today. You're going to see the airplane land and the next airplane land within a foot of where the last one did. And they'll do it all day long because they're being guided by a computer-based system.
Right.
So they helped it out. They also have helped out when you fly your airplanes into these clouds. The computer tells you, okay, these are the clouds you're going to avoid. This is the ones you're not going to avoid. So the systems are being built in everywhere. In retirement plan where I work in, same thing. There's a lot of computer programs that tell us where we are, where we should go, etc. And even on trading, people that do day trading, which I don't do, Sasha, but they use computer-based programs to tell them where to make their trades. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think someday, because the legal system is the last one to adopt technology. They hate technology for some reason. Someday you're going to see a lot of the decisions being made with the support of computer-based technology. And then you won't have these inconsistent opinions that exist from state to state and from maybe even from country to country. The problem is also, since the laws differ from state to state, it's inefficient because you can't scale it. In other words, you can't make one computer program that operates on all 50 states because, hey, it's okay to do gambling in, we're in Las Vegas, but it's not in North Carolina. So you can be arrested in North Carolina. It's okay to smoke weed in Colorado, but not in other states. And it's against the federal law. Now you see the inconsistency in the problem. Federal law doesn't recognize it. You go to jail if the feds catch you. You're free if the state guy catches you. But it also depends what state you're in. And it's very confusing if you're training young kids saying, well, what you did is illegal, but maybe not, depending what state you're in.
I hear you. Hey, by the way, I have good news for us and everything. I found this out yesterday. I think you may have already recognized this. I know that we're airing on LinkedIn and everything. And the gentleman that came on it yesterday, Gabe Leal, actually does a daily live streaming schedule where he puts on and recommends shows that people should go watch. Yeah. We are on that list again. So we were on it on Monday. We're on it again Tuesday. Wow. So he puts out this list on his page, and he definitely is considered a live streaming expert and a remote producer. And he does this daily live streaming schedule. World Edition is on the schedule. Sasha, I'm trying to get, because I've been talking to Gabe, I'm trying to get Chess Stars and Investment on that link as well, because he puts it out daily. So hopefully on Wednesday, Wednesday is Investment. Hopefully on Wednesday, Investment will be there, and on Saturday, your other show will be there as well. But I have been talking to Gabe about getting that list. But World Edition has been on there for 2 days in a row, and it looks like it's going to be on there on a regular basis. So big shout out to Gabe for helping us get the word out about this program.
Yeah, so we're not banned because like I said, the poll that we did on LinkedIn got taken down. It was on Kyle Rittenhouse, and it just got LinkedIn just killed it. It had 55,000 views within like 4 hours, and I go, you got to be kidding! We got banned on LinkedIn for the first time. So it's a good thing to know that we're being supported. And I do know on I call them distribution points. It varies from place to place and the hard data. I do know that it's Chess Stars. I sent it over to Chess Nation. All the chess players love his show. Okay. Within like 30 minutes, 105 people watch it. It's like, you're kidding me. You know, so one thing about Chess Stars, the minute it goes to a chess site, Chess Nation, Lee Chess, I mean, it's picked up by all the chess I've got subgroups. They're Facebook subgroups that all love your show, Sasha. Just like you know, so you're very popular on Chess Nation, Lee Chess, and some of the Chess Learning and some of the other ones because they don't have a lot of good chess shows. And the Queen's Gambit has made it very popular, but there's not a lot of shows on it.
I'm wondering how it would be possible to make it interactive so during the show people could ask questions.
You can. There's a comment section on StreamYard, but I'm not sure how you do it. You have to register. How do these people comment?
They comment on their individual website. So if it's going to Facebook, if it's going to YouTube, if it's going to LinkedIn, then one of the things that we can do, and I can try to come in there on the days of your show, is try to push it out to those platforms and encourage people. And you can also do it as a verbal conversation. Is to encourage them to comment.
They have to comment during the live presentation. Right. Okay, see, that's the problem. Yeah, only. Most of the people that watch your show are watching it on demand. Like I said, that most of the time, if you look at the live presentation, you get very few people. Then the minute it's pushed out onto the platforms, that's where you get hundreds and hundreds of people watch it. So that's the reason you may not get as many comments is because they have to do it during the live presentation. You know, and you have to push it out like what Mark says during the live presentation.
And actually, you can push it out. I know you do it after the fact, Nick, but you can't push it out doing this show. There are ways to do that, which in that case, they could even be trying to guess the moves or trying to guess what people are going to do. So there are ways that we can possibly make it go more interactive. I've actually been working on that on the online dinner party, and to some degree, it's been successful, and it was very successful doing the whole Black Business Expo and everything of that nature, because we were getting comments back and forth. So there is ways to do it, but it does take usually teamwork, and it usually takes a lot of people in different places working at a simultaneous kind of way. Because I can tell you that during the Expo, it wasn't just me pushing it out, it was other people pushing it out from their platforms. And I can talk to some people that I know in the chess circles, and I'm sure you can as well, Nick, and we probably can make it become a little bit more interactive if that's something that you would like.
Well, I mean, I push it out like afterwards and see the extent you can make the show. Like when we did the Kyle Rittenhouse, I had the Sunday night special. I should just cut out Sunday night. I should just say this Kyle Rittenhouse special and not make it date specific, because then people watch it for a long time because they're watching it on demand. And there's been a big push for people watching on demand content as opposed to watching live content. Now, we broadcast this live, but most people that watch World Edition will watch it on demand. They're going to watch it afterwards. It's just the way it is. And then topics are really important. And this is a big one that we should bring up on World Edition. Or if not, we're going to bring it on Economics Monday. It's this $2 trillion spending bill. I mean, see, that's huge. And what I want to do is a poll. I haven't done it yet, Mark. I want to poll the LinkedIn people to see what their feelings are on spending another $2 trillion. Because the other thing, I did a poll recently on Medicare being insolvent. Now, it doesn't affect people in Canada, but it does people and people in Australia, but it does the United States. Imagine if somebody told you in 2026, the Canadian health system's going to be bankrupt. Okay, that's a big deal. Well, that's what's happening in Medicare. But I got a huge response. 93% of the population thought it was important. But the Congress is ignoring the issue, you know. And so there's some interesting issues. And this is the beauty of LinkedIn. What I do like is their poll system. This whole area of immigration is also, I think, pretty important. And then Roe versus Wade. I did a poll on Roe versus Wade.
What
And
was the
most
result
people,
of those polls?
right now, 70% think Roe versus Wade should stay as it is. Now, the reason why I think these polls are interesting on LinkedIn, because then you get a feeling for what people think on LinkedIn. Notice you don't get a feeling for all the people because not everybody's on LinkedIn.
And they have some interesting polls, because right now I'm just looking up the polls that I'm seeing right now, and I'm going to play along, and we're going to see what their answers are.
Yeah.
Maybe y'all give along, and these are not as issue oriented. But one of the polls that they've got is, are you experiencing burnout during this job hunting season? Your answers were yes, and it sucks. Yes, getting through it. Not at the moment. I won't hit burnout. Those are your 4 choices, and they've only got 277 votes in that case, and everything along those lines. I'm going with not at that moment, because I'm not having burnout at the moment. And apparently the vast majority disagree with me, because they said yes, and it sucks. They were feeling burnout because of what's going on. And the other poll that they got going on is, what would make you happier tomorrow than you are today? So I'm going to let Nick take this one, and then I'm going to give another one if I can find it for Sasha. And their answers are better health, more money, a new job and or a boss, or more time with loved ones.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I think happiness is self-made for the most part. In other words, you can be happy in all sorts of different situations, so it's really self-generated. Also, there's an argument, Mark, that happiness is chemically induced. So the thing is, in other words, you either have more dopamine or you don't have more dopamine. So if you have more, you're happier. If you don't, you're not as happy. So it might be, at the end of the day, it's just a pure chemical reaction, and that's it. In other words, there's some things like as chess players, you deal with all this intelligence, or at least I had a group that deal with all these IQ tests and stuff like that. I said, look, they're biased, but in the future, they're going to be able to do MRI scans on your brain and say, oh, that's how intelligent you are. And you don't need to take any test. They'll be able to measure it seriously through a computer-based programming that taps in your brain. Okay. Well, it's the same, unfortunately, with happiness. I believe what you're going to see in the future, they're going to be able to say, okay, this is your happiness pill, baby. You take that, you're going to be happier. They even did some studies that if you run, it creates more dopamine, and your your energy and your happiness goes up. So it is what it is, and it's not based on external things like they think, oh, I've got more money, I'm gonna be happier. Probably not true. Okay, but if you had less, you'd probably be sadder. So the thing is, that's probably true.
So
Or if I'm healthy,
you've eliminated more money. What about better health? These are your 4
yeah. What
options.
about better health? Right? Yeah, you could want that. Okay, so the poll was Roe versus Wade. 70% said keep it as is. That's our latest poll on Roe versus Wade. I think the polling is good, because if we had a real democracy, which we don't, people always say, well, the United States is a democracy. Wrong. We're not a democracy. We're a republic, which means we vote for people who are going to make all the decisions for us. That's not a democracy. A real democracy would do like a poll, just like that. And we have the computer technology to do it. Should we keep Roe the same? You send it out, and there's your answer. You can find it out instantaneously. That's a true democracy.
I hear that's a true democracy, but Nick, you just did something that was very effective and very wonderful. I've got to tease you about this and everything, and I'm going to toss the question back to Sasha, this same question. Did you notice, Sasha, how Nick just did a great political roll around and did not even answer the question? The poll is supposed to be the answer to a question. So I'm going to pose the question to you and everything, Sasha. What would make you happier tomorrow than you are today? Your choices are better health, more money, a new job and or a boss, or more time with a loved one.
Okay, let me describe exactly what would make me very happy, let's say, tomorrow morning. Let's see if I will wake up with my wife in a beautiful hotel in, I'd say Amalfi Coast will do for now. And we have a champagne with freshly squeezed orange juice and a little piece of chocolate there. And then had lovely breakfast. And then I would have cigar. And then we would take a short trip to island of Capri.
Capri?
Yeah. Yeah, it's right. It's probably 30, maybe 40 minutes trip from Amalfi Coast to Capri.
Oh, Amalfi Coast. I didn't think you were close to that. I thought you were in Canada.
No, Amalfi Coast. No, Canada is...
I thought you lived in Canada. I think you lived in Italy.
No, but I'm talking about what would make me particularly
I see.
happy
Okay, you
if
go
I
to
would wake up in Amalfi
Okay, got
Coast.
it. Right,
Okay.
there we
Right.
go.
He's
Right.
saying what would make him happy if he was in that situation.
Okay, and then in the evening, I wouldn't mind to go to Casino and have a nice play there. And I would consider that to be a very happy day.
It sounds like a very happy day. I'm thinking that would be a wonderful day for myself. Being off in Italy and being there with a significant other and everything along those lines sounds wonderful. I'm liking your idea, Sasha. By the way, the answers, and they did get a fairly decent return on their poll, a little bit over 2,606, but
That's
the
good.
answers were very close. More money was the leader with 32%. More time with loved ones, which is actually what Sasha is talking about, was number 2 at 31%. So they were very close. Better health was 25%, and coming in distant place with only 12% was a new job and or a boss. So it does look like the whole idea of having either more money or spending time with your loved ones, which is kind of what Sasha was alluding to, is kind of where people were going. And I know we're winding down on the show. I wish that Shaquille is here, because one of the things that I was going to bring up news-wise was actually some news from Australia. And that was actually that a family of 4 was rescued by a helicopter there earlier today after they got stuck in the Australian outback following bad weather and flooding. So maybe that's why we haven't seen Shaquille, because maybe there's been some
maybe he was one of the 4 people
and everything in that regards. But he is they did say that the 2 adults and 2 children were traveling in a certain car down there, and they got stuck, but they were able to be found and actually rescued. So that is great news anytime that a family can get rescued and all of that. But I'm sure that was news all over Australia. And of course, it wouldn't be news in the United States because we wouldn't know those individuals. But a lot of times that is something that people pay attention to, is when folks get rescued if they are in different situations and all of that. So that was the news coming out of Australia. So we did give the Australians some news coming out of their area as well. Any news that's breaking in Canada really quickly that you heard about, Sasha, before we get ready to get out of here? And of course, we'll be back tomorrow with more news on the day before Thanksgiving.
In Canada, no news is good news. That's the rule of the game in Canada. There are very seldom some kind of substantial news. Somebody would kill somebody would like eruptions. There are some problems in British Columbia, but it's unfortunately it's a natural disaster there, and it will take time to.
I think what happens, Mark, for Canadians to get their entertainment, they just watch what happens in the United States and they find it amusing. Because
I agree with you.
The U.S. is out of control, and the Canadians are going like, why are these people so strange south of the border? So, Sasha, you actually chose wisely going to Canada and saying, the United States. It's certainly a great place to live is in Canada. I lived very close to the border for 15 years. And Canada was just a great place to visit.
When we left Soviet Union, we went to Italy in Rome.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, we spent 8 months in Rome, and we could apply to go to one of 4 countries: U.S., Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yes.
So I figured out that Australia and New Zealand are probably too far from everything. Now, U.S. and Canada. Initially, I wanted to go to U.S., but there were a lot of former friends who were also and they were saying that Canada is almost as good economically as U.S., but it's much safer place.
Yeah, right.
And to me, concern of safety was quite foreign. I didn't understand, why do I need safety? What is it? What I have to be safe from? I think
you'll find out.
People would have to worry about making themselves safe from me. Why would they worry about safety? But it was a time when I was young and foolish. Of course, Now situation is quite different, and I
Right.
understand the concept of safety.
Yeah,
But
the concept of
for that
safety makes
purpose
sense.
alone, yes, Canada is probably a better place.
Yeah.
You know, other issues like medical. I don't understand why US is not following the. Not forget about Canada, but all the other developed countries in the world, whether Germany or England or France or just Italy, Spain, just any country where. Health is a universal concept and people have access to health. And I never heard that their medical plans are going out of business in the next 3-4 years. And it's such a big, huge problem, really, as it is in the States. And
Yeah.
I think the most horrible thing is that nobody's really discussing that except you and Nick on the program here.
Right.
Nobody is like, if I would tell my American friends about
Hey.
this, they would, Sasha, really? How did you figure out that?
Well, maybe we'll bring it up on Economics Monday, because the issues of health have not been solved in the United
No,
States.
they've not been solved at all.
Healthcare is still a major problem here, Sasha, and they love to hear from Canadians, and you'll love to hear the American response to Canada. So maybe we'll do that on Economics Monday.
Response, I know what is response that for certain procedure you have to wait much longer than in US or so on, which is true. But considering other advantages of Canadian system, I think it's okay. And even waiting for a long time, for those who care, they can take one-day trip to Buffalo, pay a few $100, and just do it there.
I'll bring some people from other countries and see what they have to say about their healthcare system, because I've been talking to Roberto Soprano in Italy. He says he's working too hard. He wants to get back on.
Oh, good. I need to see Roberto. I love Roberto when he comes on.
So maybe we'll figure out how it is in Italy. You know, when I was there, for the most part, it was very reasonable. So, you know, maybe they have a system that actually works like, and ours is problematic. Of course, we're going to be inundated with Americans. We always are. I can't do anything about that.
I got 2 polls for you, and then we're gonna we can put them out and everything. But there are 2 polls that we can put out there on our platform and everything. One is a serious topic, which is what you're bringing about, which is healthcare in America affordable? We know probably the majority will say, and everything along those lines. So that would be the serious poll question. The less serious poll question, but it is one that is playing out in our world in the pandemic, is trying to figure out how I phrase it. Are long distance relationships suffering because of the pandemic? Because I've actually got this theory that more people have been having them because of the internet, because, you know, they can communicate through the internet when we were more locked up and things of that nature. But because now people are having to get out, now they're having to find out if they have the capital to get from point A to point B. So therefore, the long distance relationship may not be as successful as it would be in the virtual world, because now you've actually got to get to the person, and it's actually able to get to the person, supposedly, if you have the means.
Okay. Oh, we'll go. Like to see the results of those polls when they come out. So
we will put those out there and see what folks have to say.
Yep. And we're past the hour.
And I'm going to hit the intro, outro, and see my good friends Sasha and Nick on tomorrow. And we'll catch y'all on that day. And who knows, maybe Shaquille will bounce in, or somebody else as well. But we will definitely be here on it tomorrow. We're still taking off the Thanksgiving Day, and I think we're taking off Friday, but that's still up in the air. But definitely taking off on Thanksgiving. Definitely we will be here on Wednesday, but we will see y'all on tomorrow.
Bye.